Hey Hollywood, why waste your time on writing new material or even making sequels? No. Just make the same movie over and over and over again. Red Dawn, a reimagining of the original Red Dawn that came out in the 1980s, is a movie about a group of kids who find themselves fighting a war that they didn't know was coming and what happens in that moment. This is an 80s movie, and I don't mean it's a remake of an 80s movie. I mean it's an 80s movie. If you go see this, it reminds me a lot of Footloose. When Footloose came out, kind of the reimagined version, it was basically the exact same movie, just done with new actors. All the storylines and everything were the same. Red Dawn actually mixes it up a little bit, and yet feels very much like this movie could have been made in the 80s. And the truth is, I think that's the right call. I actually enjoyed it because of that. If it had felt, too cool for school or too hip, too modern, I think it would have felt a little out of place. This is a story that feels like it should be in that era, in that time frame. And the way these kids talk, the way they act, the things they say to each other, kind of the feel of the bravado of this group of kids, it just feels like you could have watched it growing up in the 80s. This is a trend I think actually started with Super 8, which of course was J.J. Abrams' nod to like Stand By Me and those kind of movies to, Steven Spielberg did in the 80s. And I think for whatever reason, this nostalgia is working, and these directors are realizing if you're going to remake something, the audience that you're remaking it for is going to want it to feel like the original felt. And if one thing can be said, it's that this Red Dawn feels very much like the original in that way. So is it good? The answer to that is, yeah, it kind of is. There's a really interesting concept here, for one, and there's good execution. The acting in this movie is fairly decent all around. None is bad enough that it's distracting from what's going on. The plot is grand enough and big enough that a lot of the events feel big and have that grandeur that you want to see in a movie like this. And at the end of the day, you just kind of feel nostalgic, like you got to see an 80s movie in 2012, and there's something kind of cool about that. In this case, I think it works. In every case, I'm not sure it will, but Red Dawn was a movie that maybe I'm glad it was remade.